We are ready to go with our closing keynote. Dr. Phoebe Koundouri, thank you so much for joining us today. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me. So I'm going to try to put the water, food, and energy and biodiversity nexus into circular economy and into the SDGs transformation that is crucial for economic growth, and it's crucial for facing all the multiple crises that we are currently looking at. And what are these multiple crises? Well, we have economic crisis, slow economic growth, inflationary pressures, shrinking fiscal spaces, expanding fiscal deficits across the world. And together with this, the climate crisis, the destabilization of the climate that is transposing into increased frequency and severity of extreme weather events. Together with the biodiversity collapse, the crisis of the environmental aspect of our economy is really influencing the economic aspect of our economy. And of course, it's influencing the social cohesion of our societies and economies, and it's aggravating inequality around the world, leading to conflicts and wars and energy insecurity, food insecurity, and very difficult situations to handle. 2015, we agreed on a common blueprint for facing all these crises, and this common footprint includes the way forward with regards to an economic efficient global growth, social cohesion, and resilience in the biosphere. And these are the SDGs, the 17 goals, the 169 targets within them that 163 countries have decided to sign and implement by 2030. I lead the Alliance of Excellence for Research and Innovation of IFORIA, which brings together a number of research and innovation centers, innovation acceleration hubs, science policy networks, and scientific associations and academies that I lead or co-lead or direct or co-chair or chair. And our thematic areas are SDG and ESG measurement and sustainable finance. And this is our firm conviction that unless we measure where we are and we have a firm goal to where we want to go, it would be impossible to make the progress happen. It would be impossible to design and implement the pathways that will allow us to achieve the SDGs that will bring us away from the multi-crisis towards a sustainable interaction between the economy, the society, and nature. And we also focus on sustainable finance with a number of projects that are focus on this. Then our next area of expertise is sustainable pathways for climate neutrality and climate resilience, and mostly looking at dealing with the climate crisis. Next focus is sustainable seas and oceans, a very big system that we really need to put on the sustainable pathway, looking at different angles from energy production in the sea, net zero shipping, fisheries, aquaculture, and coastal management. Then is the food, water, energy nexus, and of course, land use pathways, which is the other big system of the economy that we need to regulate, and many different projects on that. And finally, we know that innovation and the unprecedented pace of technological advancement that we are experiencing in this fourth industrial revolution is our big hope for achieving the SDGs, the targets that will get us on a sustainable pathway. That's why we work a lot on innovation acceleration. And we also know that innovation acceleration, that is adoption in the market of the advances, the technological advancements, the financial advancements, the social advancements need a lot of capacity building, upskilling and reskilling, vocational training, but also revision of the curricula in the schools and universities. So this is what we are and what we want to do, and all that we do falls into the policy framework. It is consistent with the policy framework of the sustainability transition. The sustainability transition is something that can be summarized in the by looking back in 2050 is the SDGs and the Sustainable Development Goals, and we have every year as UN SDSN a very firm methodology for measuring progress or non-progress with regards to the implementation of the SDGs in each and every country of the world. This is important because you know where you are, you know where you stand, and we do it for European countries as well, and we do it for each and every country, and we do it for regions within countries, and we can also measure the effect per SDG or along the value chain of products and services that are traded in international markets. So the first lesson is that you can actually measure where you are, you can measure the performance, you can monitor the performance, and you can actually act upon the performance. That is, the SDGs are there in order to identify where you are underperforming and allow you to decide to streamline investments and budgets and finances towards those targeted areas. So the SDGs are a way to form investment programs and investment decisions within countries. And we know that during 2015 in the European Commission, 2015, the UN has achieved another big success, the Paris Climate Agreement, detailing SDG 13 and agreeing to join efforts to reduce global greenhouse emissions so that the increase in global average temperature does not go beyond 2 degrees Celsius. And in 2018, the IPCC report told us that 2 Celsius is too much, 1.5. We should try to keep the increase compared to pre-industrial level global average temperature. And then we have the European Green Deal. The European Green Deal with the main 4 axes, these 2050 climate neutrality, protection from pollution, high-tech leadership, clean tech leadership for European companies, and just transition, leave no one behind. And then during 2020 until today, we have the detailing of the different policies of the European Green Deal. Important thing to note is that even after COVID, we have Next Generation EU, and the Next Generation EU is an additional to the 1 trillion budget of the European Green Deal, an additional 750 billion focus on the green and digital transition. So even after the huge disruption of COVID, the European Union growth strategy it remains the European Green Deal. And you can see here what is the green and digital transition. The green and digital transition is about decarbonization, circular economy, which is what we are focusing today, biodiversity restoration, and sustainable mobility. And the digital is about improving cybersecurity, deploying cutting-edge technologies, deploying digital skills, and improving connectivity. So we have these areas where Europe is focusing, and then we have many laws and regulations and directives in order to streamline resources and accelerate implementation. We have the European Climate Law, the first time that we have a law making compulsory the 2015 climate neutrality in all European countries and making 55% reductions in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, again compulsory. We also have the EU taxonomy. This is very important because it's the financial revolution that is streamlining capital towards sustainable investments that are explicitly named climate change, mitigation, adaptation, protection of water and marine resources, circular economy, again, crucial and central, pollution control, and protection of ecosystem services. And at the same time, we ask the companies to report again sustainability. The corporate sustainability reporting directive extends the scope of reporting requirements on sustainability goals to all large companies and all companies listed in regulated markets requiring audit of reported information, introduces more detailed reporting information, and requires companies to digitally track the reported information. So we have laws, we have regulations, we have a change in the financial requirements of banks in order to give cheap loans, and we have a change in the requirements, the reporting requirements of the business sector. And we also have the Fit for 55, which are 13 regulations. Most of them have been voted until today, 2030, that change everything that has to do with our energy system, the land use system, the marine system, and the transport system. These are the 4 systems in the economy that needs to be decarbonized and become resilient to extreme weather events in order to get on a sustainable pathway. Now, moving forward to the water, food, energy nexus, you can see that it is connected with almost all the SDGs, and in this nexus, circularity is also affecting all the SDGs. The SDGs are a very holistic framework and integrated and interdisciplinary framework, and as such, the transposition of this framework into measurable impacts and footprints and effects, and trying to minimize those effects in a circular way is a very science hectic and data hectic exercise. Here you can see what is the achievement around the world of the SDGs that are relevant to water, food, energy nexus. SDG 2, it's about food security, and you can see a lot of red. Red means major challenges remain. SDG 6 is about water and sanitation. Again, a lot of red, and orange, significant challenges remaining is orange. SDG 13 is climate change, and you can see only some spaces, some countries in Africa are within the target, and SDG 15, which is about land use, which is about sustainable agricultural practices, land use change, and forestry, again, you get a lot of difficulty and major challenges in implementing the SDGs. And our approach to putting together implementable, holistic, integrated, and interdisciplinary pathways for achieving this multi-phased SDG framework in each and every country is the UN SDSN Global Climate Hub that I chair, and it's focused on co-designing national and subnational pathways to be implemented for the achievement to sustainability transition. And it is composed by 9 units. I will go through them very quickly and just focus on 2 that is relevant to this event. The first one is climate data platforms and digital applications. It's about gathering, aggregating, visualizing, and using data in real time to inform the models that the other units are using. Then it's atmospheric physics and climatology, then climate and energy. This is about decarbonizing pathways for the energy system. Then it's climate and land use, which is gonna be the focus of the rest of the slide. Climate and health, innovation, acceleration for climate neutrality and resilience, and then the just transition, how we finance the implementation of the transition pathways that we co-designed with the stakeholders, which is the 8th unit, and then education, upskilling, and reskilling. Now, with regards to climate and land use, what we need basically is to identify what should be the focus. We focus on agriculture as the main driver of land use change and test the impacts of different policies and changes in the drivers of these systems through a combination of scenarios. And this is something that is very relevant to circular economy in agriculture, and it can give you the combination of shifting diets, increasing crop and livestock productivity, and limiting agricultural land expansion as the strongest driver of positive change in global biodiversity. And at the same time that you achieve food security and global biodiversity targets, you also achieve climate mitigation goals. And you can sketch these achievements per country. Here you see the situation in Greece, left-hand side where we are, and right-hand side where we can go by revising technologies, increasing productivity in agriculture, and changing land use. And this gives us 2045 climate neutrality in the agriculture sector. The second aspect of the water, food, energy nexus is about urban water systems. And this is an ERC project that I am co-leading. This is a Synergy 10 million project on designing the next generation of urban drinking water systems. Why urban drinking waters? Because half of humanity lives in cities today, and 5 billion people are projected to live in cities by 2030. So, and by 2050, 70% of the world population is predicted to live in urban settlements. So we bring together in this project decision theory that I bring in as one of the 4 principal investigations of these European Research Council projects: decision-making under uncertainty and ambiguity, experimental behavioral science, and non-market economics valuation. Then methodologies for explainable machine learning to explain changes in the system and the influence of certain parameters or long-term decision-making. Then methodologies for real-time monitoring and control for explainable fault diagnosis, and methodologies for water infrastructure planning and management, valuing robustness, flexibility under deep uncertainties. And here our objective is to develop theory and application for robust and flexible decisions to support strategies of system expansion, water system expansion under deep uncertainty, develop real real-time distributed monitoring and evolving control methodologies for water systems, develop explainable machine learning models in non-stationary environments for complex structure and network data, develop methodologies that integrate economic, social, ethical, and environmental considerations, and societal welfare maximization in the design of the expansion of a water system in the short, medium, and long run, and finally develop open source tools that integrates the scientific outputs produced and demonstrates them in different case studies across the world. The final part of my presentation is about financing. How do you finance this transition? And I'm going to focus on a few aspects of this financing. The first aspect is, sorry about this. The first aspect that I want to focus on, and let me go to the right slide, is that the importance of integrated natural capital in sustainable finance framework. At the moment, we have market prices for produced capital, we have market prices for human capital in the labor market, but not natural capital. And we have developed a very holistic and detailed framework for valuing and monetizing natural capital according to ecosystem services, and not only doing that, but also integrating in life cycle analysis the footprint of each and every production process on natural capital. And then we are in a position to value this footprint on biodiversity, on ecosystem services, on natural resources, monetize this footprint in different countries, and then being able to integrate natural capital in our decisions. And this is very crucial for circular economy, because unless you know the monetary value of each and every input in your production processes, it is very difficult to identify transformations that will be circular and at the same time lower your cost and increase your market share, because they reflect the demands of the consumer. So here we showcase the willingness to pay for different ecosystem services, water, marine, terrestrial ecosystem services in different countries across Europe. This is an econometric meta-analysis of original valuation studies and their connections with SDGs. And you can see that the countries whose citizens are willing to pay more for environmental and ecosystem services are the countries that are more successful in implementing the SDGs that are related to the environment. The SDG 13 on climate, SDG 14 on marine resources, and SDG 15 on land use. Finally, I just want to say that we need the socioeconomic narrative of this transition. So it's not enough to have the science-based models figuring out what changes we need to make. We also need to identify who is going to pay for this transformation, this major transformation of the four systems that I talked about: the energy system, the transport system, the land use system, the marine system. Who is going to pay for the investments, and how are we going to mitigate the regressive effects on the vulnerable? We've done a general equilibrium analysis that showcases that it is possible in countries in Europe where we have fiscal space, public fiscal space. It is possible with blended finance, private and public finance, to implement the European Green Deal, to implement green and digital policies, and at the same time protect the vulnerable by designing interesting, efficient packages of measures, including lump sum transfers and targeted energy efficiency measures and job retraining programs and subsidies for low carbon technologies. It is possible to implement climate policies and at the same time, with this package of measures, to increase growth, increase jobs, and increase equality in all areas of Europe. The difficulty, however, is with countries that they don't have fiscal space. Some of them exist in Europe, but the more extreme difficulties are in the global south. And we know that advanced economies are nearing levels needed to shift trajectories toward net zero, but emerging and developing economies only at 20% of the levels, and they are facing increasing fiscal options. So there is a big case to be made for restructuring global financial architecture, and this is something we work with the UN and the Pontifical Academy of Social Science. And what we need to do is to tackle the high cost of debt and rising risk of debt distress, including by converting short-term high-interest borrowing into long-term, more than 30-year debt at lower interest rate, and massively scale up affordable long-term financing for development, especially through public development banks and including multilateral development banks, and by aligning all these financing flows to SDGs. SDGs are growth enhancing, but are long-term targets. So you need to give the countries time, and you need to give them cheap money to do it. And of course, you should always have at the back of your mind that 2/3 of the money of the wealth are not public, are in private hands, and we need to streamline private money towards SDG investments, because these are profitable investments and welfare enhancing investments and growth enhancing investments. And this is how the annual SDG financing by finance industry leaders is allocating billions into the different SDGs. So in order to accelerate this process, we have created a tool, a methodology, and an e-tool that allows the connection between ESG and SDGs. ESGs are now the obligatory framework that companies have to report according to their performance on environment, on social and governance aspects. And we connect this with SDGs. Why we do that? Because SDGs also include financial sustainability. So we transpose the SDG framework from a national to a company one, and we integrate the environmental, social, and governance elements of reporting with SDGs. And basically, this means integrating ESGs with financial sustainability. The business of businesses is to make profit, and we want to showcase how you can make profit while transforming to a sustainable company. And at the end of the day, our methodology allows you per SDG to identify where the company is along the value chain of the company for each segment of the company. And then it also identifies profitable transformation that will allow the company to reach full fulfillment of the SDG by 2030. And this can also be done for, and this, I will be closing with this, this can also be done for asset management. We have used 11,400 companies and more than 600 ESG KPIs to calculate ESG and SDG holistic performance indicators per companies. And using arbitrage asset pricing models, we can showcase that the performance of $1 investment in SDG mimicking portfolios, that is, portfolios that hedge against SDG related risk, can give you increasing returns for each of the dollar invested. And not just that, but the blue line that you see is the SDG mimicking portfolio, showing better performance than any other portfolio in the stock exchange, in global stock exchanges. So there are many challenges, but there are scientific solutions. The science has answered most of the problems at least to a level that is good enough to start implementing. The technology is there. We have huge technological advancements and options and cost-efficient options. The money is there. We need to streamline it to the correct, sustainable paths. And of course, in doing so, science and technology is not enough. You also need to bring an interdisciplinary approach, which means you need to engage all the stakeholders in a real discussion, given the science-based results, on how these pathways need to be refined, become consistent with local idiosyncrasies and circumstances, so that the stakeholders own the pathways, become shareholders of the pathways, and in this way they get to implement the pathways with a speed that is good enough to meet the targets of time before we reach tipping points that are irreversible. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, Phoebe Koundouri, for joining us today.